a confession. I've always been the type to freeze at the sight of numbers. Back in school, just glancing at a math exam was enough to make my head spin. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. One of the biggest challenges we face as new adults is managing our finances. Money suddenly becomes a huge part of our lives, yet most of us have no clue where to begin. Stay tuned as we dive into the world of finance in a way that actually makes sense, where shows like Insight Out exist just for you. As the name suggests, Insight Out is a show that will bring experts from various fields to provide insights for students. This won't be just information thrown at you, but genuinely help you navigate life a bit easier. Knowledge coupled with understanding. Tell me a better combo. That's why, for our very first episode, we are honored that joining us today is Mr. Suhail Qadri, a seasoned stock market trader with nearly 2 decades of experience. Active in the markets since 2005, he combines his passion for trading with a deep commitment to financial education. As the founder of the company, The Ultimate Traders, he educates people about the Indian stock market through social media and training programs. Through his YouTube channel, Business Kranti, he promotes awareness of cryptocurrency, while his other company, Solvable Infotech, provides stockbroking and advisory services. With his expertise and dedication, Mr. Qadri is shaping the next generation of traders and investors. Welcome to the show. So before I begin my first question, I would really like to tell you about this meme on Instagram in which Naina tells Bunny कि जितना भी try कर लो Bunny, घर से बाहर निकलोगे तो 500 रुपए तो खर्च होंगे ही. But my first question is simple but essential. It weighs heavily on the minds of college students, especially living in Mumbai, a notoriously expensive city, can be tough for college students. Given your extensive experience, how would you recommend we as students approach budgeting, but especially in Mumbai?
Mumbai. The city where taxi and rickshaw fares usually move faster than our semester grades. Budgeting over here for a student is all about prioritizing and planning. Usually I suggest you follow the 3S rule. Survival, savings, and smart spending. Okay, so I'm not going to bog you down with percentages over here. Each one's budget is different. Each one is allocated a different amount. Okay, but majority of whatever stipend or whatever budget you're getting should go towards your survival, basic necessities, your rent, food, etc., etc. A percentage should go towards saving and smart spending. Now, we all want to indulge in that once in a week, Starbucks or going out for a dinner or lunch, whatsoever it may be. So that is important as well. Okay. For savings, allocate a percentage of your amount towards savings. Over here, our goal is not to make loads of money. It's basically to get into the habit of saving. So we'll start to inculcate the habit of saving and investing. So whatever amount you decide that, okay, I want to save 1,000 rupees a month, as an example, divide that into 2 parts. One, that should go towards an emergency fund that you can tap into anytime you require additional funds. And the second, towards an investment. Now, because you're a student, you can go for something which is a low risk investment. So what I would suggest over here is you can look into SIPs. So SIPs are basically systematic investment plans. Now, I'll go into detail about what SIPs are. For the investment portion, I would advise you can allocate half of the amount towards a SIP or a high interest bearing savings account. Okay, so look for saving accounts which offer you slightly higher percentages than your average saving account. Either that, or you can tap into a SIP, which is a systematic investment plan, and your amount is then invested in the stock market. Third, spending smartly. Okay, now student discounts are your best friend. Look out for student discounts. You know, even when you buy an Apple product or something of that sort, keep an eye out for student discounts. You know, they're your best friends. Use it for travel, metro, railway tickets are already discounted for students, so use that. Apple products, even, you know, you get a student discount on that. So keep an eye out for all kind of student discounts. Second is impulsive spending online. So online spending can get very, very addictive. Okay, so I'm not saying you shouldn't spend online, but avoid impulsive spending. Add it to your wish list, wait it out for 24 hours, and then ask yourself, do I really need this? And then make the purchase. Okay? consider some amount of shared expensive. Netflix is going to hate me for this, but yes, you can share a Netflix subscription. Your rent can be shared. If you're staying together, groceries, etc., again, can be a shared expense. Okay? The key over here is to track every rupee. Not only will that create a disciplined habit, when you start earning, etc., but it ensures that the money works for you and you're not working for the money.
Well, that advice was amazing and it would really help our students in a huge way. So, my next question is, something I've heard that having a record of paying taxes for at least 2 years can improve a student's chances when applying to foreign universities. Is that true or just a myth?
Interesting question. So, although paying taxes doesn't directly affect your admission in any way, but it does help you in multiple ways. Now, what does taxes do for you? Or what does paying taxes do for you? It shows some amount of financial stability. Okay, so now we need to understand, what does taxes do for you? Okay, so taxes basically show some amount of financial stability. Now, there are two aspects when applying for a foreign university. Okay, A is your visa and admission process. The second is if you're going in for a student loan. Okay, now think from a college's perspective and from the visa perspective. If it's somebody who already has a track record of paying taxes, that means the person is slightly more disciplined than others. I'm not saying it is necessary. Okay, but it does assist you when you're applying for your visa, applying for the college. They will take that into consideration and it does ease out the process. But at the end of the day, your academics, your research paper, etc., that holds a far greater weightage than taxes, than what just tax paying will do. Okay, the second aspect is the loan aspect of it. Okay, now going abroad can be very, very expensive. Okay, if you think again from a bank's perspective, they want to lend out the money to somebody who is credit worthy and has the ability to pay back. Okay, now the bet they're taking over here is A, you will complete your graduation, post-graduation, whatsoever it may be, and then get into a paying job, which will then pay for the loan. Okay, but if you're already earning, right, that shows a better picture to the bank. This person is already capable enough to pay back the loan, and the chances of the person getting into a job plus paying back our loan faster because they're disciplined is higher. So your chances of getting a loan is far, far easier as well. So although not directly, but indirectly, taxes do help. Now, if you're not already into an earning slab, or if your graduation or post whatever program you're doing right now does not allow you to get a job, that's fine. Focus on your research paper, etc., your curriculum, your marks. That holds a greater weightage. But if you're in the earning bracket, or if you've earned or done any internship or anything of that sort, even if it's a non-taxable income, so even if your income is not taxable, it's advisable to file the taxes, pay zero tax. It shows a healthy track record.
Well, that was a very nice crash course on taxes. But my next question is, you recently spoke about SIPs also. So would you like to elaborate more on that and on the concept of investments?
Sure thing. Investments, although it seems very scary, it is something which is very, very simple. Unfortunately, the world of investments is such that people tend to complicate it so much. We learn about trigonometry, we learn about derivatives in school, which is so complicated, but nobody teaches us about finance, unfortunately. Okay. With finance, basically you just need to start early. That is your cheat sheet towards finance. Okay. Now, when I spoke about an SIP, what is an SIP? SIP is basically a systematic investment plan. Okay. Now, for a person who does not know a lot about the stock market, this money is going towards those people who are experts in the field, are running a fund. Okay, so we have a fund over here. People are investing into that fund, and that expert is making informed decisions and investing into the stock market. Okay, so we're just putting in small amounts every single month concurrently for a certain amount of time, and that goes towards a larger fund, which is then invested in the stock market. Now, how do we go about doing this? Okay, the basic is, provided you are 18 plus, You have your basic KYC details, your PAN card, Aadhaar card, bank account. You can open up a DMAT account. Okay, DMAT plus trading account. Now, what this DMAT and trading account allows you to do is basically purchase mutual funds, purchase stocks on the stock market. It's basically your facilitator of the transactions you're planning to do. Okay, so basic step is open up a DMAT account. Look for DMAT accounts which are low cost. So Zerodha, Angel One, Grow, Upstocks, etc. Grow, Upstocks, and many more in the market. So look for somebody who's reliable, registered, and open up an account with them. That's your first step. Your second step is start off with something small. So whatever dispensable income you have, so SIPs can start off as low as 100 rupees. So you can do 100, you can do 500. Now, the first thought goes, okay, what is this 500 going to do for me? Doesn't make sense, right? Yeah. But think of it this way. The goal over here is not to earn money, although that 500 will earn you. I'll give you a fact. Okay. 500 rupees. If you start investing 500 rupees at the age of 18, okay, by the time you retire, say about 60 odd, and you keep the same amount, 500 rupees invested every single month, at the end of the 42 years, your invested amount is about 240,000, so about 240,000. The prospective returns that you can expect is around 1.5 crores. So so that 500 seems very small, but it's all about compounding. Like I said earlier, let your money work for you. Not, don't work for money, let your money work for you. Okay. So first step, open up the DMAT account. Second step, start off with something small, 100 rupees, 500 rupees, etc. Every single month. And then you can graduate into stocks once you're out of college. So don't think of any get rich quick schemes. Don't think of FOMO. So if you're missing out on certain opportunities, I've heard a lot of students talk about cryptocurrency recently. Okay, Bitcoin has gone to 100,000, etc. A couple of students, I'm like, forget that. Over here, you need to study. You need to work for your grades. Forget about earning multiple X returns. The idea over here is just to start a habit, and once you have a dispensable income, when you start earning, that is when you can look at riskier assets. Okay, the goal, like I said, is habit. It's not about having a lot of money, it's just starting early and doing it consistently.
Wow, that advice was gold. But moving towards our next question, investing always comes with risks and misinformation can be very costly. How do we ensure we are making informed decisions? What precautions, according to you, should we take to invest safely and smartly?
So let's be honest, there's a lot of bad financial advice out there, but this is how you stay safe. There's a 5-point system that I like to follow. Okay, the first one is, you Gen Zs like to shorten down things. This is my version of a shortened down word. DYOR. Do your own research. So don't blindly follow WhatsApp messages, Instagram influences, any stock tips or any kind of recommendations that you get from untrusted sources. So make sure your sources are regulated, are actually from the financial space, and then add your research on top of that before investing. Okay. The second is, never put all your eggs into the same basket. So all your money has to be diversified. It can't be just one particular asset. Start learning to diversify. So if you're investing in, say, equities, like we talked earlier about SIPs and mutual funds. So if a certain amount is allocated towards SIP, make sure there's a certain amount which you're allocating towards a fix or a debt-based investment. You can also do gold, for a matter of fact. You can start investing. You don't need to actually buy gold. So there's something which is called digital gold, and you can start off as low as, again, 500,000 rupees, and you can actually have gold. So diversify your investments. Okay. You must have seen the meme, 21 din mein paisa double. Yeah. So anything that sounds too good to be true is never true. So be wary of anybody who guarantees a return or says, I will double your money in XYZ days, look the other way, run away. Okay. The fourth is using trusted platforms. So like I said, open up an account with a broker, trusted broker. So there are regulatory offices. So for the stock market, it's SEBI. For banks, it's RBI. So make sure whatever platform that you're investing in or investing through is regulated by these government authorized agencies, so that your money is in safe hands. Okay. The last and the most important is think long term. So quick money never really works. What you need to look at is, steady investments invested consistently over a long period of time, and that is what will, diversify your risk, reduce your risk, and make sure you have a safe, investment. So it's patience plus knowledge, avoid hype and FOMO.
So the recent Budget 2025 announcement has brought several changes in taxation laws. Some removed, some newly implemented, making it a tricky space to navigate. Could you break it down for us? How will these new laws impact taxation on investments?
So taxation is something which everyone is really wary of. Nobody really likes taxes. So think of it this way, okay? We are a developing country. Okay, we're a developing country. There will be higher tax slabs in the country. So before I start off with how this impacts your investments or your earnings, it's always a good advice to pay your taxes. So whether you, after college, whether you get into a job or you become an entrepreneur, doesn't really matter. But pay your taxes, okay? And in terms of investments, in terms of taxes, so this budget has brought about a major change, which is increasing the tax slab to 12 lakhs. And if you're salaried, up to 12,75,000 even. So that's one of the major changes that has been brought across. The second major change, which was not in this budget, but the previous budget, although not productive in terms of investment scenario, the long-term capital gains. So which is basically if you're investing for a period greater than 1 year, and you exit the investment, there's a certain amount of tax that you need to pay. Okay. So for equity-based investments, that used to be 10%. That has increased to 12.5%. And there's a certain amount which is, so earlier there was an amount. So if you earned a profit up to 100,000 rupees, that was waived off. Now it's 125,000. So slight benefit, yes, in the previous budget, but a slight disadvantage again, yes. The only major change I would say is the 12 lakhs on your income. So taxes may seem boring, but they directly affect our profits, our income. Okay. So one major change that has been brought about this time is increase of the tax slab to 12 lakhs and 12,75,000 if you're salaried. So up to 12 lakhs, you will be paying no tax. But for any investments you made, there's no changes. You still have to pay the 12.5% capital gains as and when you... So for investments, there's actually no change. It's still as per the previous budget. You still have to pay 12.5% as capital gains, which is a tax you pay when you sell your investments.
Thank you so much, sir. I wish this conversation could go on and on, but this marks the end of our first episode. And I walked into this conversation feeling incredibly intimidated by finance, but now I leave with not just information, but a real profound understanding of it that wouldn't have been possible in the least without our incredible guest, Mr. Suhail Kadri, who made everything seem so much easier. Wow. I am just loving this conversation and I wish this could go on and on.
Thank you for giving me this platform. It's been an honor to share my knowledge with young minds like you.
Well, this marks the end of our first episode. It's only the beginning of Inside Out. We've got many more engaging and eye-opening conversations coming your way. So stay tuned to Voices of Sophia.
Voices of Sophia.